What's up, vinyl community? It's your boy Chris coming at you live, as always, from the man cave. Um, Earlier this morning, did a little thrifting, did a little antiquing. Had some good luck. Been listening to some tunes, crafting out some ideas, running through some things, and quick conversation with my buddy John Galdieri. Shout out to you, buddy, via text message. Inspired me to do this. Something I've never talked about on here. Let's talk about soundtracks. Specifically the ones that I've picked. Keep in mind, I really don't buy soundtracks. Most of the time, if I have a soundtrack, it's for nostalgic value, nostalgic purposes, because it's a movie I love, or it represents memories that I love, or for a couple of these instances in here, it's because I really do love the music on them. First up, I want to talk about this one. Without further ado, it's a Some Like It Hot soundtrack. Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon. It is an all-time and an immortal classic. I am basically, as a teenage boy, was obsessed with Marilyn Monroe. Still am. I still have tons of memorabilia. I have magazine covers, original magazine covers. I have original movie posters. I have, tons of stuff, tons of memorabilia. A lot of it's worth a pretty decent chunk. But it used to take up my entire bedroom. Well, not my entire bedroom, half my bedroom, and then what was left took up music, movies, sports pennants of my favorite teams. But the point being, I love Marilyn. I always have. Most guys around about my age had posters up of Pamela Anderson. I had posters up of Marilyn Monroe. She's it for me. To hell with Pamela Anderson. Not to insult any of you who had a thing for her. It's just not my thing. Let's just leave it at that. But I didn't just love Marilyn for her looks. I love Marilyn's movies. The 7-Year Itch, Bus Stop, Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, How to Marry a Millionaire, all of them. And one of my absolute favorites, of course, is Some Like It Hot. But at the time, again, you guys have heard the story from me if you've watched enough of my videos. I grew up with records in the house until my parents got rid of the turntable years ago, and I hated it. And I hated that they got rid of it. But so I've always been around records. But when I bought this one, I didn't have a turntable, and I had no means to listen to the music. I just thought it would look cool framed on the wall with the rest of my Marilyn Monroe memorabilia. And fun story, I never actually did get around to framing it. But this is the very first record I bought with my own money. No bullshit. I know that's shocking, but I didn't buy it with the means to listen, with the idea of listening to it, because again, it was dead. The vinyl records were dead. You couldn't just go buy you go in a store now. You can go and you buy any new turntable you want. If you go in a record shop, you got any choice of used, any choice of new. You get your Projects, your Technics, you got everything. You didn't have that then. Record stores, they were gone, especially in my area then. Bought it on eBay like $7. Never did get around to framing it, and when I did, get around to really digging it, I got my turntable, listened to it, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Then I started buying records from there, and there you go. But this is the first record I ever actually bought with my own money. That's a classic movie for you guys if you've never seen it. That's the main thing I'm getting around to with this. Basically, the gist of it for you guys who have never seen it, I'll probably explain. But Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis in this movie. There are a couple of band members, hot jazz style music, vocal jazz style music, and they witness some mob shooting, and they're witnesses, and mob doesn't allow any witnesses, so they flee to Florida, dress up like girls, and join an all-girls band, where of course the plot thickens. Marilyn Monroe is the lead singer of the group. Tony Curtis's character falls for her, gets the hots for her, moves in closer, doubles himself as another male character. When they don't have gigs or whatever, takes her out on dates, proposes to her, the whole nine. Which of course everything's found out. Jack Lemmon's character, on the other hand, kind of gets pawned off on a dirty old man as a woman, and that famous line at the end of the movie where, he's listing every reason why, Jack Lemmon's character is listing every reason why he can't be with Osgood. And it was, I can never have children. And he's like, we can adopt some. And then he just throws his wig off and says, I'm a man. And Osgood goes, without flinching, goes, well, nobody's perfect. And it's just like, where do you go from there? But it's an all-time favorite, all-time famous movie quote. You gotta love it. If you guys haven't seen the movie, please do. Marilyn Monroe, Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, Some Like It Hot. Classic. Next up, one I want to show is one I've never been on my table. Tons of sentimental value to me. Gone with the Wind. You guys no doubt know this movie. I hope there's nobody watching this that hasn't seen Gone with the Wind, so I'll just leave it at that. Clark Gable. Got a classic. I can remember living at home with my parents, and me and my mom were the night owls in the family. And, everybody else would either fall asleep on the couch or was pretty early to bed, but not me and Mom. My mom and I would stay up all night watching movies or playing Scrabble or listening to music. I'm very, very much like my mother. But anyway, this movie would come on, cable television every so often, and every time it did, my mom and I made a point. Now, this is before, DVDs were a thing, and even before, people, before DVDs were a thing, before you had it in your house and everything like that, a lot of these movies, you just waited for them to come on television. Like Wizard of Oz, for so long, TNT owned the rights to Wizard of Oz, and it was like a one-time or two-time a year event. Now, everybody's got it. You see it all the time. But anyway, I digress. It would only come on, Gone with the Wind would come on a couple times a year on cable. Me and my mom would make it, a point to stay up all night and watch that 3-hour movie. Basically, I think it's about a 3-hour movie plus commercials. So it's like a 4-hour movie. But we've watched that movie dozens of times, and it brings back all kind of great memories. That record has never actually physically been on my turntable, but I hold on to it anyway. It's one of those sentimental value records. It reminds me of an awesome place and time. What can I say? No apologies. Next up, Breakfast Club. One of my all-time favorite movies, of course. Molly Ringwald was, the it girl in the 80s. Emilio Estevez. Yeah. Anthony Michael Hall's in it. He was in all kinds of movies in the 80s. Ali Sheedy. Of course, everybody wants to be Judd Nelson in this movie. The girls, I think, want to be Molly. And the guys, I think, want to be Judd Nelson. The rebel, the cool rebel. The cool rebel who, comes from nowhere and at the end of the movie gets the attention of the hottest girl in school. I think that's what that's just my opinion. I never aspired to be Emilio's character because I was a jock in school. I'm just going to call it what it is. I played 3 sports. I was a jock in school. I didn't have jock tendencies, but I love sports. So no, I never really aspired to be him. I thought Judd was so cool, obviously. Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe? I can quote, I can't even tell you how many. I'm free the Saturday after that. After that, I'm going to have to check my calendar. Yeah, like I said, I always thought it was super cool, but I'm like, ain't no way in hell I'm giving up all my Saturdays to sit up in a school library where I can't do what I want to do. School library where I can get up and read books as I please, sure, but I've just got to sit there and write essays. I got it here. No way. Next up, really cool pressing, and this is just like, man, if you could construct your own, just, oh my God, decade by decade, unbelievable playlist, I think you'd go with this, honestly. This is the Forrest Gump soundtrack. It's 32 American classics on 3 LPs, SRC Hi-Fi, audiophile mastering this soundtrack. For you guys who don't have the package, it's supposed to be, limited edition. My copy's number 1725. But show it off. It's really cool. I love the packaging. Yeah. For those of you, I'm hoping I'm not talking to anybody who hasn't seen Forrest Gump, honestly. I'm hoping not. I really hope not. But you know, a couple of you have probably been to the Bubba Gump Shrimp, restaurants or whatever. Like, I went to one in Charleston, South Carolina, my wife and I. And your waiter, always opens up with the Forrest Gump movie trivia. And they're like, "Hey, have you seen the movie?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." And they're like, "Okay, well, we're gonna, run some trivia by you and everything like that." And they ask like 10 to 15 questions. I got them all right. I'm an expert in this movie. And he told me he'd been waiting there for like 7 or 8 years, and I was the only person he'd ever talked to that had ever gotten them all right. I think we got like a free appetizer or something out of it. I can't remember what it was, but I didn't know we were going to get anything out of it. I just, like, hey, I'll show off my movie trivia for a minute. I love this movie. This movie does everything for a person. This movie makes you laugh. This movie makes you cry. This movie makes you, it's got action. It's got humor. It's got comedy. It's got everything. And it makes you, and then, when you become a parent, or in my case, when you become a father, in that part where Forrest gets told that, little Forrest is his kid, you cry. And the part at the end where he tells little Forrest that he loves him as he's getting on the school bus, you cry. And the part where he stands over Jenny's grave at the end and talks to her about little Forrest and breaks down, you break down, or at least I do. I'm sorry. If I'm a sap, I'll just be a sap. It's not bothering me. Trust me when I tell you. I already knew I was a sap. I love this movie. Gump! Why did you put that weapon together so quickly, Gump? You told me to, Drill Sergeant. I'm sorry I ruined your New Year's Eve party, Lieutenant Dan. She tasted like cigarettes. Guys, I can keep going and do an entire video of just Forrest Gump quotes, but this is a viral channel. I'm not going to do it to you. So real quick, I'll just round off some of the all-time immortal classics. Elvis Presley's Hound Dog, obviously, which would relate to when Forrest is teaching Elvis how to dance. Oh, so vulgar. No, you only could film Elvis from the waist up because those dance moves are just so vulgar. Imagine if those people could see the shit that's on TV now. Oh, she's wearing a thong. Okay, cool. We'll put her on TV first. Make sure you show all that. It just blows my freaking mind. The birds turn, turn, turn. There is a season turn. Everybody loves that song, obviously. The Supreme, Stone Love, Four Tops, I Can't Help Myself, Bob Dylan, Rainy Day Women, number 12 and 35. Sweet John B's on here. Buffalo Springfield, For What It's Worth. There must be some kind of way out of here. Everybody knows that stuff. It's great. Of course, Sweet Home Alabama's on here. It would be. Simon and Garfunkel, Mrs. Robinson's on here. Willie Nelson's On the Road Again, when Forrest is, running with a group at the end. And Bob Seger, Against the Wind. Now, this is great. I'm going to throw this on in a minute. See, this is what happens. When you're me, guys, and I know I'm not the only one, obviously. Like, I know, for example, just to throw a name out there real quick, I don't know if you're watching, but Dylan, if you're watching, I know you listen to records pretty much the way I do, where you basically find yourself constantly listening to the stuff you just got in. And that's me. And I was talking to my buddy Marcus one day about it, and he goes, "Hey man, don't worry about it. Just get everything that you know you love, and it's a great retirement plan. Right now you work your ass off and you're a full-time dad, but someday your kids will be out of the house, you'll be retired, and you'll just have all this time to listen to your tunes. Think about it that way." I'm like, that's a hell of a good way to think of it, because I constantly spend time depressed. I'm just going to call it what it is, about how I've got all these great records and don't get to listen to them. Well, not as often as I'd like to anyway. And because I don't have but so much time, I find myself listening to what comes in. Okay, next up. Grease. Summer loving had me a blast. Guys, I love Grease. I can remember seeing Grease for the first time, 7th grade chorus class. Our teacher not only loved this movie, but was actually, kind of a pretty boy-esque kind of teacher. Not really, he's not like Zac Efron pretty, or even Danny Zuko in The Grease pretty. But I can remember they had a local play in town, and he auditioned for the role of Danny Zuko, and because he sang better than everybody and, looked close enough, he got it, and he was great. I can remember all of us seeing it as a class. It was great. And first time I ever seen the movie, and I fell in love right then and there. I loved it. Still to this day, my favorite movie I ever saw in school. I loved it. I loved every single minute of it. I cherish it. If you ever want to be entertained, you can join me and my mom and my sister for a game of Scrabble when I bring the soundtrack over. And the game of Scrabble takes like 5 hours because the three of us just can't stop singing every word of this soundtrack. And then we started over. You're going to pay for that? Well, I'll give you 75 cents for the whole car, including your chick. I don't know why it took me so long to do this, guys. This is a hell of a lot of fun. Oh, man. Frankie Avalon. Beauty school dropout. Who wants their hair done by a slob? Alright, anyway. I know you guys are probably sick of this by now. This is my parents' copy. You know, for those of you who know about Grease, you know that it's a 2 LP set. Okay, when I got my parents' record collection, they only had one of the 2 LPs left with no sleeve. So I went and bought one of these nice, black sleeves to put it in, but I've only got 1 LP. And it's side 3 and 4. And I only keep it for nostalgic, sentimental value. To this day, they still can't tell me what in the hell happened to LP1 or the sleeve. I don't know. Go figure. But I'll always have it because they can't exactly sell 1 LP with no sleeve, can you? I mean, I could Goodwill it, but made a promise to my parents to keep every record they ever gave me. I am keeping said promise. Next up, one of my all-time favorite movies. A couple stories behind this one. Absolutely. Top Gun. To this day, one of the most, in my opinion, perfect action movies that was ever made. And Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis, of course, are awesome in it. And Val Kilmer's in it, and Anthony Edwards are in it, and Tom Skerritt is in it. I just watched this movie the other night for like 8,000th time. Stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning on a work night, even though I've seen it 10,000 times. When I was a kid, I used to stay with my grandmother, God rest her soul, all the time. And she had VHS, and she had 2 tapes. And here's what's great, though. The 2 tapes she had are 2 top 10 favorite all-time movies for me. The 2 tapes she had were Top Gun and Forrest Gump. I've been waiting to tie that together. I love this movie. I love it. Love it. Fun story. A little while ago, my buddy John had texted me and told me that he was watching my newest video and made a comment about my aviators, my Ray-Bans, and about how he thought they were cool. And I was like, yeah, fun story behind that. I wear them because of Tom Cruise's Maverick and Top Gun. I thought Maverick was so cool. Still think he's the embodiment of cool. And I look at Tom Cruise. And think, man, if only he'd been over 6 foot tall, the man would have had everything. For those of you who know, Tom's a vertically challenged man. But God, I love him in Top Gun so much. And, not just Top Gun, but plenty of other movies. But Top Gun's one of my all-time favorite movies. The soundtrack's perfect. Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone. Everything's perfect. Take My Breath Away. Berlin. It's a perfect soundtrack. Every song, every little section of music fits everything perfectly. Of course, there are a couple of songs that aren't on the vinyl soundtrack because of copyright issues for the soundtrack. They're in the movie, but not on the soundtrack. Righteous Brothers. You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips. Okay, fun story real quick about that one. I'd always thought that was such a cool scene where, he, like, man, now that's a pickup. Like, 'cause, most guys, try the corny pickup lines, or most guys are too scared to talk to the girl, or most guys, just get real nervous and come off as awkward. But Tom's like, she's lost that love and feeling. And Goose says, I hate it when she does that. And then he gets the entire group of Top Gun, enlistees, if you will, to sing "You've Lost That Love and Feeling" to Charlie. And he gets him a seat and he gets him a foot in the door, and she might only want to talk about the plane, but gets him in. So that's just awesome. And then of course there's "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay" by Otis Redding. It's in the movie, but not on the soundtrack. But it's perfect, just for that. It's just the embodiment to me. When I think of perfect movies, I think of Top Gun in there, and I think of it really quickly. And because of that, I love the soundtrack. So awesome. One of the coolest movie characters of all time. Tom Cruise is Maverick. Easy. And another fun story behind "You've Lost That Love and Feeling." So for a friend of mine, got married, I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago, and we had a bachelor weekend in beautiful Asheville in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. We went up there for a 3-day weekend, drank a bunch of beer, went to some cool restaurants, went to some cool bars, spent a lot of time grilling out. It was a lot of fun. But one night we go out, we hit the nicest restaurant in Asheville, and then afterwards we're all walking, all of us, had a couple bottles of wine that we'd been splitting, the expensive stuff. But everybody goes in, put $10 in, and it's not that expensive. And so we had, some liquid courage in us, and one of the guys just had the idea that, there were it's the summertime. So a lot of bachelor parties going around, and there's a lot of bachelorette parties going around. For those of you who've never been to Asheville, North Carolina, it's a fun destination for stuff like that. There's every bar you can think of, breweries around everywhere, great restaurants. It is a great spot to have like a bachelor or bachelorette weekend. And it's always obvious to spot who the bachelor and bachelorettes are. So we had come up with this idea to every time we saw a bachelorette party, to run up on them, stop them dead in their tracks, and sing "You've Lost That Love and Feeling" to them. We did it twice. And the second time we did it, we had one of our guys we had nominated to go up to her, to the bride to be, and say, have you lost something? And we didn't tell him to say that. He come up with that on his own. It's kind of, and she's just looking at him like, who the hell are you, and everything like that. He goes, I think you've lost something, and then snaps his fingers and cues us, and we all sing "You've Lost That Love and Feeling" to her right in front of this restaurant. And it's one of those restaurants with the open, there's no glass there. It's one of those restaurants that's like enjoying the summertime. So everybody hears us and everybody's cheering. So everybody's clapping along, and and she's just blushing and laughing and loving it, and her party's loving it, and it was just an awesome moment. We all hung out for 10 or 15 minutes. Then they went on their way. We went on their way. But something tells me, I know I'll never forget the moment, and I'm sure that they'll never forget as well. I just thought it was super cool, and obviously I know all the words to that song, and all of us knew all the words to that song, and all of us thought to do that because of Top Gun. Fun story, real quick. You guys know how I am. Next up is one that's most important to me at the moment. Most important to me at the moment as a dad. Trolls soundtrack. Or as my daughter Ramona calls it, Toes. 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 She loves it. It's one of her favorite movies. She loves the soundtrack. The funny story is me and my wife, the first time my wife and I had ever seen this movie was before we were parents. And we get about 10 minutes in, because my wife and I like animated movies. We get 10 minutes in, and I look at her, and she looks at me like, this is dumb. Because we only had a couple hours to watch a movie before we had stuff to do. I'm like, this is dumb. You want to keep watching this? And she's like, no, not really. Is that okay? Because I'd already paid the price to rent it, streaming. I'm like, no, it's okay. I'll gladly pay like $3 or whatever and rent another movie. It's okay. I just don't want to waste this 2 hours. So we get out of that. I went ahead and bit the bullet, paid the money, and then rented another movie. I can't even remember what that movie was. Fast forward 3 years later, And we love the movie. We love every word in the movie. We know every word to the movie. We love the words to the songs to the movie. My daughter knows every word to every song in this movie. True story. Every word, and she sings them pretty damn well for a 2.5-year-old. But what I love so much about it is, besides the fact that it's got, it's got some catchy songs on its own, some catchy original tunes. Like, of course, everybody knows Justin Timberlake's "Can't Stop the Feeling." Everybody knows that. But it's got "The Sound of Silence" that's on there. Anna Kendrick's character sings "The Sound of Silence." It's only the first verse, but still. "Hello," Lionel Richie's "Hello" is on here, sang by Zoe Deschanel's character in the movie. And "September." Said you remember, dancing in September. So what I love about it is my daughter is getting exposure to all of these classic songs because of this kids movie. That's awesome. I love it. So, sure, at least a few of you, my regulars anyway, had seen a video, a couple of videos back. I can't remember which one it was. I'm sorry, guys. They all kind of just blend into one video at this point. It just feels like a story that never ends, and I love it. But I can't remember which video it was. But at the end of it, it's daddy-daughter dance time. Me and my daughter Ramona here in the man cave, right over there, 3 feet from where I'm sitting, dancing to the soundtrack. And Ramona will grab my hand, and she will drag me to the door, and she will pat on the door, "Dance, dance, dance." So obviously I have to come in the room, I have to throw the Troll soundtrack on, and we dance to the whole soundtrack. And nobody's allowed for daddy-daughter dance time but Ramona and daddy. Not even my wife. My wife opens the door, my daughter will shut it in her face. And she loves her mama. So that just goes ahead and tells you this is her, for her, this is our thing. I'm willing to let anybody in. For her though, it's our thing. And I love it. And I hope she's never, ever, ever too cool to dance with her daddy. I hope not. So, anyway. I thought that was going to be a 10 or 15 minute video. And I'm coming up on 28. Because so many of these mean a lot to me. And they bring back so many memories. So there you have it. So, I'm going to wrap it up. Until next time. Until next video, which by the way, next video, I'm announcing 500 subscriptions contest. 500 subscribers. Your boy, Tunes from the Man Cave, Chris, managed to get to 504 subscribers by drinking beer and talking about a genre almost nobody cares about. Don't ask me how. Next video, I'll announce the Tunes from the Man Cave 500 subscribers contest, so you guys stay tuned. Until next time, until next video, keep dropping that needle, my friends.